If it comes from me, you gotta care.
Next, you want to get back.
Well, ready? Good afternoon. I'm going to call this meeting, today's meeting of the Budget Advisory Committee to order. May I have the roll call, Michelle?
Chair Bergerman,
Here.
Vice Chair Hall. Here. Ms. Major has resigned. Ms. Hales. Here. And Ms. Outward. Here.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any public comments? Nothing? Okay, then we're going to do old business. And that's the discussion of the recommendations that we made to the Board of Commissioners that Ms. Howard was kind enough to present in my absence. I watched the video after I returned to the country. My takeaway, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, they weren't adverse to the idea, but they wanted further discussion. They also had some talk about modeling different percentages. Has anything taken place in terms of that?
No, there's been nothing additional since then. You know, they with the 5.37 millage rate, and then I think when I explained to them, we have the 1% in the budget this current year, 1% next year. I know the discussion came up, what if we did instead of 1%, like 0.25, 0.50, and then I think we got into the discussion of, you know, I said, well, we've got the 1% in there currently,
Right.
and I think that's where it sort of ended.
And so there's been no further discussion at all then.
Correct, and the 1% is still in the budget.
So that, if they approve the budget, that's good for next year, but that doesn't, because we had projected a 5-year window on this.
Correct.
How do we proceed with that then?
Well, if you want to go, I think that what we've talked about is trying to put that into the fund balance policy and incorporate it in there.
Okay. But they ultimately have to approve that policy, don't they?
Correct. We have to bring the fund, yes.
Okay.
It's
So
a
we would have to modify the policy and then present that back to them.
correct.
Okay. You have any comments since you were there doing this?
I've watched most of the budget workshops. I'm not sure about all of them, but have they discussed it at all in the workshop so far?
The 1%,
Have they discussed it at all in the workshops?
not any further, no.
So our next move then would be to modify the policy. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I need to know. We'll move on to new business. That's yours, Ron, I guess, in terms of the salary classifications. You presenting that or someone else?
Yeah.
I'll start.
Okay,
So, Ron, did you want to introduce Sherry before we get going?
I was going to wait, but,
Okay.
well, you know, it's been 18 months now. I haven't had an assistant finance director, an accounting manager, but now we got an accounting manager. Shane's filling that position, but we have a new assistant finance director. She's been here 5 days now. Her name is Sherry Bohm. And this is Sherry. I'm sorry.
She's fully up to speed now? Yeah.
Pardon me?
She's fully up to speed now, right? Yeah.
I tell you, she's trying, but I'm trying to, you know, not too much all at once. You know, I don't want to, what do you say, your head blows up or something? She's trying to take it all in.
Yeah.
But we're happy to have her here.
Great.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, so you were all recently sent a copy of the proposed salary classification plan amendments for this upcoming budget. I assume you all received those. We wanted to get those out as soon as we could so you all could review them before this meeting if you had a chance. So what happened is the city manager put a committee together that consisted of the HR director, Jane Niffen, Paul Smith, and myself. We had department heads go through and submit requests to us on what they wanted to do to try to help their department moving forward this next year. We then went through their requests. We had one-on-one meetings with them, sometimes multiple meetings with them, to see what they were trying to do and what we felt they needed changed. This plan has a variety of changes from regrading positions to reclassifying positions. We found that some of the job descriptions that did not keep up with what the actual individuals were doing anymore, based on, you know, they got additional duties over time and they were doing more work and then what their job classification said, so they either need to be reclassified or regraded. Some of the changes in the plan there that departments are putting in will help the departments put more supervision in the fields in some ways to help with the oversight of jobs, the efficiency of the jobs, and the productivity of the jobs. So by having more diverse supervisors out there with their crews, the departments felt that they would help move things along in a more efficient way. And then sometimes it was just because of technical requirements of the job changing so much. Some of the positions that are being regraded or reclassified to help keep up with some of the industry standards and help retain some of the qualified people we have today. And we also wanted to be able to look at what's going to help the city hire future candidates by keeping up with industry standards of pay and things like that. So we make sure we get the top candidates, just like the other cities are doing. One of the changes in the plan that you went over is, as you're aware, over the last 5 years plus, the city manager has worked diligently trying to keep up the lower wage levels with the ever-changing minimum wage standards, not based on state, federal recommendations, or just sometimes what the county or other cities are doing with the minimum wage. So one of the things that happened with that, one of the consequences, unintended consequences, has been that the salary compression between the mid-level managers, supervisors, and department heads has shrunk. So these people are up close to what the department heads were starting to make or were making. So he wanted to be able to look at that. You'll see that in the packet. And that was based on some of the couple of municipalities recently have done some pay studies that we glanced at to see what was happening there. So today we have Ron Herring here to answer any questions. I think you saw the spreadsheet with the cost of some of what this plan is going to do. And then we also have department heads here that put the requests in. If you have any questions for them on what you see there, they're here to answer any questions that you may have. So with that, I can turn it over to Ron if you want to talk about that or wherever you want to go with this.
I just have a high level, what I heard in terms of this process is there was a small committee that was put together for this. The committee, in order to come up with this, met with department heads, did an analysis of supervisor, maybe percentages or something like that, or kind of looking at the supervisor and the staff that report to them. And then you mentioned there's some pay studies from other municipalities, kind of like a benchmarking situation.
We use them just to kind of glance at, but
yeah.
I think the process to get to those is going to take a little bit of time.
Okay.
We do have a new city manager coming in.
Yeah.
So that may be one of his tasks. We don't know yet, but
Okay.
so we want to kind of do this in pieces.
Yeah.
I will say that there were some department heads that put stuff in that we looked at, and we just didn't feel it was the time yet to
Yeah.
do those changes for those departments. So not all departments got everything they wanted. Some got none. And some of the departments that are here today might have asked for more things that they just wasn't going to go through the process this time.
Okay. And did it also involve like looking at what other competing agencies or other competing? Yeah. Okay. So
We did.
I
We did
can't
look
think
at
of
some of
anything
that.
else to add. That seems fairly robust to me.
Yeah.
How was the decision made for who did and didn't get, like, what was kind of your basic criteria?
So what we did is they came to us, we put it on a large spreadsheet, we looked at it. We then had meetings with the city manager to go through them. And it was his decision on which we're moving forward and which weren't going to move forward based on some of the recommendations we had, because not only did we have to look at what they were asking, but if you take employee A and you want to move them up a certain percentage within their pay grade, what's that going to do to other people in that pay grade already? I mean, are you starting to bump more people and more people? So we had to play that balancing game to make sure, not game, but balancing act to make sure we weren't causing bigger holes and more problems in the pay plans itself with other departments. So it's tough act to try to put together. So but we tried to do what we could.
Is the committee a formal committee or just something y'all put together?
It was just three of us that the city manager put together to do the deep dive, I guess you want to say, look at these things and see how we can fit this into what he wants to do.
It would be beneficial to establish a compensation committee going forward and not do this all at the end of the year and meet quarterly so that you're ahead of the game. Something to
We can
consider.
pass that along.
Last one for me. Do you think this sets us up kind of like for the coming years, or are we kind of just covering so are we competitive this year, or does this help us kind of get competitive?
This is a step.
This is a step.
A
Okay.
step in the right direction to get more competitive.
Yeah.
I think that, I'm only speaking for myself. I think the new city manager will have to look in that themselves to see where they think they need to go with this, the next step on to being as competitive as the others. So,
On attachment 1, Ron, the various grade levels, and they've been pushed up for 2025. But grade level 3 still has an hourly minimum that's below 13. Isn't 13 going to be the minimum for 25 statewide?
In fact, I don't believe we don't have any grade level 3.
Okay.
It's just still on there.
There. Okay. But then going into 25, well, we're budgeting 25, going into 26, it's eventually going to $15 an hour in 2026 or 2027 for the state. These lower grades, I'm just wondering if we're,
The minimum wage you're talking about?
yeah, next year we're going to have the same push to get.
Really,
those.
what the minimum wage we currently have is 16.2541, I believe it is. We've been, as you know, over the last few years, we've been increasing it. We used to have 80-some people full-time below $15 an hour, but over the last 5-6 years, city manager has been
Right.
increasing that. So now I think the minimum's at the 16.25. And
Perfect.
I think we're still trying to get that up a little bit more still.
But we don't have anybody below that. right
Correct.
now. Okay. And I see in the notes that the different percentages, it says this will be in addition to, we've already got 5% baked in, right?
Correct.
And then these are in addition to that. Okay, is there any kind of HR policy in existence that says if a position is changed in grade or increase is given, that it's up to a maximum of X, like just say 10%, like we're gonna regrade this position, this person needs to get X% more, but we're not gonna bump anybody more than 10% in one fiscal year?
No, there's no set policy or percentage like that, but usually what it is if it increases the standard has been if it increases one grade, it's a 5%.
Right.
But if it's 2 grades, it would, say 10%, but sometimes we'll look at the position, how it fits in with other ones, we might be doing 7.5%, but there's no maximum that is currently set.
And in the grades, you've given us the minimum and the maximum. Is there a midpoint for each grade as well?
Correct. It's not on that sheet.
Because I've seen in others, and I'm not advocating to do this. I'm fine with all these numbers. I'm just thinking in future, when we're doing these grades, is to have a double check to make sure that when we do these, I've seen it customary that if you're going to move somebody up a grade or within their grade, you're not going to move them past the midpoint because you
Correct.
don't want to go ahead and cap them out in the first year you're giving them an increase. So that might be a check we want to put in as well.
Is there any mechanism in place for any type of merit in addition to the standard, or is it just everybody is evaluated the same and it's this standard increase and that's that?
It's this increase at October 1st here. Years and years ago, there used to be one, but that was when I was here 30-some years ago. But
So is it kind of a case of, that's why there's the range, the minimum, the maximum, and so there is leeway there, or it's,
correct.
okay.
Yes.
It's that you can, if you're not in the maximum end of the range, you could get bumped up there, but you're still within the range, and it's the range we're giving the percentage to.
Correct.
Okay.
And how is that annual increase decided, the percentage wise? Like, how did we come up with 5% this year? Is there a policy we follow, or just a gut feeling, or?
For the main 5%, well, we're trying to, keep up with the other cities and what they're giving. As you know, Dunedin had a pay study done a couple years ago. They went up. Clearwater had a pay study. It went up and quite a bit. And then Largo just had a pay study. So all these are going up. So I think we're just trying to keep up with the other municipalities in the area. So as you know, we had 3% funded at first, but then when the property tax value came in a little bit higher, we were able to fund the 5%.
I think there's a little bit of just keeping up with could everybody afford to live in Pinellas County?
Correct. Inflation and
In a pay study, high level summary, that's just they look at what folks are making, benchmark against other.
well, some of you hire these firms and they go out and they'll compare to other cities of similar size. If it's 10, 15 of them, then they come back and that's quite an involved study.
Yeah, I imagine. It's nice that you were able to see theirs. to the extent it was helpful.
So do you poll the other cities during your budget process and say, how much are you giving?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of them, there's a range. There's a couple that were below 5%, but the majority were 5% or above.
The city manager gets a lot of that information from his city manager meetings, when they all talk about what they're all doing, and then he can come back and, tell the finance director, this is what they're doing, maybe we need to look at this or that, so.
Nice. Nice.
Is there somewhere in this, all of the different documents that outlines the difference in the dollar amount to the bottom line? Like where we were, and then with all of this, where we're going to be with this approval in terms of just raw dollars?
You want like the total cost of the
Yeah,
increase?
like what's that total cost difference on the salary end? Do you have that?
1.2 million for this increase
For the increase in total or
in total, correct?
not just this additional amount? Like there's just the raw, it was 3% when we first budgeted, right? Like when we first started this, there was a certain dollar, I can't remember what it was. I have to go way, way back, but I was just curious to know what the just dollar impact is to the bottom line.
Okay, here we go. For the 5% funding, 1,179,000 for the 5% we funded. And for the additional cost of the increases, right, 172,000,
Okay, that's
bringing it up to about 1.3 million.
I do better with the big numbers.
Me too.
I have one specific question on one of the changes. It's item J. Reclassify one technician to parks position to fleet technician. So is that a move from one department to another? Not adding a position, but just moving a parks position into fleet?
Correct. They're moving one from under Public Works to Fleet.
Okay.
And from what I understand, he's a certified mechanic and
Okay.
I don't have any more. I
Now,
think,
you indicated not all departments got what they asked, and not departments who didn't necessarily get everything they asked for. You rough idea what percentage of the overall request got addressed here?
well, dollar amount wise, it totaled like 650,000 bucks, I think, if I, but.
That's probably better.
whittled it down pretty good.
Wow.
Well,
And the
when-
first number came out and
It was
we were
quite
like,
high.
I'm not taking
Okay,
that to mark.
okay.
It seems like more this year, though, that we were making adjustments to than prior years are off based on that. Seems like
It is. I
About
think this is a
50 some
bigger
positions.
step than we've taken in quite some years. I think the city manager just knew that with all the changes and the other pay plans and stuff, we had to try to start making those small steps. To do a big step to do it all, that's going to be quite an undertaking.
So the increased money we're getting from the millage, the dollars coming in is covering all of this?
Correct.
Okay.
and then some left over, or this, how much your increase from 8.25 to 9.18, how much did that give you to play with?
Play with it. 120,
Crazy budgeting term I
120,
use.
120,000.
Okay.
And as you can see at the bottom of this, the net effect is we need almost 74,000.
Right.
So 120,000, 74. So we got 40-some thousand remaining.
And one of the reasons you see on that sheet there, there's the 66,000 and there's 70,000. The two on the bottom are charter, so
Right.
those have to be voted on by the board. That's not part of Mark's
Gotcha.
staff.
It says that this is the current budget is still based on 8.25%, and we're at 9.18.
Correct. The current budget that the board the final one you all saw and the board's been working at the workshop was based on 8.25%.
Okay.
But the actual taxable value came in at 9.18%.
So bottom line, 75,000 is going to help us adjust 50 some odd positions.
Correct.
As a step for now, but we might need to look at, yeah.
And that also is bringing up the department heads another 3% to help with the compression issues going on.
Any additional questions?
No, thank you.
Any questions for specific departments?
Not for me.
Nope.
So what do you need from this committee? Just our, you don't need a motion from us, do you?
They did a motion to approve this?
I would probably say a motion
I
to
would say a
approve it.
motion just to approve it. That way it can go to the board that you guys approve the plan.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve what was presented?
I move to approve the proposed salary classification changes as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Hales?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hall?
Yes.
Chair Bergman?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's a lot of money spent I don't agree with, but salary isn't one of them. See how quick all those flowers die if nobody's out there to water them.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a great one.
She shows up. 5 whole days, I haven't met her. He works down below us here.
He doesn't even answer
Everyone works below.
He doesn't even answer phone calls.
I know, emails either.
I don't know what he does. They won't wake him up.
They're like, we're done here.
All right, the next item on the agenda is any board and staff comments. Okay, then, future agenda items. Well, obviously go back to the old business here to modify the fund policy would be a future agenda item.
Yeah.
Any other future agenda items? Now, what is the remaining schedule in terms of the commission, in terms of going over the budget and final approval and all that stuff?
Well, we're gonna make all the little bit of final changes. You know, there's a couple other things besides, well, first, I know Shane and Sherry are working on the payroll, just trying to tweak it and just check everybody that we got all the current employees in there, because sometimes you can save some money if now some are vacant or some are filled at a lower salary. So they're going through and checking those. We're going to adjust the property tax rate to the 9.18%. So I'm going to go back through the revenues and just check them all to see how they're going for probably the end of July to see if my projections are still good. Like half-cent sales tax, I might increase it a little bit, maybe about 20,000. Revenue sharing, I might have a little bit too high, and I might come down on that one. We got the health insurance. It came in at 8.7% increase instead of the 10% we budgeted. So there's about a $60,000 savings there. Workers' property and liability came in right at 9.9%. So we're
Okay.
right on budget at
You're right.
10%.
There.
I feel like they're watching us.
I know.
They're like,
Oh,
"This
yeah,
guy
well, they'll pay
signed in right
10%,
under."
yeah. Well, for workers' comp, they did. The workers' comp came in at 15.62%. So it brings it to about 520,000 total, the cost for workers' comp. So I got probably of the health insurance I save into 60,000, I'll take 30,000 of that to
Isn't that based on experience rating?
experience. And from what Jane said, our experience rate, it really went down some. It's because we have more salaries and more employees going out. That's why it increased. I'm trying to think of look at anything else here, but not much changes as those. So now we've gotten all the insurance increases. We're going to get the book together, get it out probably by September, whatever the last Friday. I think it's August 30th, sorry. First public hearings on the Wednesday, September 4th. That's the first public hearing on the tentative millage and tentative budget. I think it's Sunday the 15th, we will have the required advertising in the newspaper. And then the second public hearing will be on Wednesday, September 18th for the final millage rate and final budget. And
Did
then
you
the
say-
budget process is
The
done.
next budget workshop is,
There's no more budget workshop. That's it.
I heard at the last one, they said something about on the 8th, something on the 8th. What were they talking?
Well, we had a meeting on
No,
on
this was
August
like,
8th.
they were talking about the next one. They were talking about another meeting that was budget related, I thought.
There's a meeting on the 20th.
20th.
Yeah, no, I thought this was budget. Maybe I missed.
On August 8th, we had the budget workshop.
No, they were talking, I know, and in that meeting, they were talking about forward,
Right.
but maybe they were misspeaking and just, they said the 8th and that was the day. I don't know. I just remembered thinking, oh, there's another one. There was something they were going to talk about. They were saving it for the next time.
Well, like the chief said, there is this pay plan that you looked at today.
That's it.
That'll be before the board on August 20th at the regular board meeting.
Okay. But not a workshop. Got it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything, other things that you have, as far as your agenda, maybe if you need a financial update, we can do that at the, whenever the next meeting is.
You have the date for the September meeting?
Probably the third Thursday.
September 19th.
That would
Yeah.
be the day after the
Yeah, that would-
second public hearing.
Right. Yeah, we could do an update at that point.
About that?
Yeah. Now, back to the announcement that Michelle made at the beginning of the meeting with a resignation. This committee technically has 7 people, 5 regulars and 2 alternates. That means to have a quorum, we have to have 4 people present. So we may have future meetings, we're not going to be able to vote on anything. We may be able to discuss items, but until we get some more people, may not be able to vote on certain things. Just to be aware of that.
So if there's anybody watching this today, we will accept applications.
Don't you have a Citizens Academy starting up?
Yes, sometime in September. I think it's the 11th. Is that a
That
Wednesday?
usually yields some folks, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. So we have vacancies on other boards as well too, so. My pool of applicants is dwindling.
Anything else? Let's see, none, we'll adjourn at 2:27. Thank you all.
All right, easy peasy.
Yeah.